Welcome back to Season 2, Episode 2 of rebuilding my 13B Rotary from my FD RX-7 at just 20,000 miles because of presumed blown coolant seal. Now, this episode here focuses a lot on really tearing down this engine. We're making a lot of progress, but to start off as strong as humanly possible, let's start off with a snapped bolt. That was awful. It was not expected, honestly. It was literally the first bolt that I ratcheted off after coming back to this project from vacation. Luckily, if there is luck here, luckily this bolt was just holding on the heat shield that surrounds the exhaust manifold. So not the absolute end of the world because there are like 4 other bolts that hold this thing on. So it's not like detrimental to the project, and it's not going to be too much of a pain in the ass when it comes time to put everything back together. As a matter of fact, I might not even extract the bolt just because there is so much more holding this on. I don't think it would rattle. I'm kind of going to tackle that when I get to it. So a lot of this episode here is tackling things like the exhaust manifold. In the previous episodes, we got the turbos off, but we're really making a lot of progress on this teardown in this one. The exhaust manifold, we're going to do the actuator here that actually controls the little flap inside of the exhaust manifold that opens and closes with the sequentials. So if you're not familiar, obviously the FD has twin turbos. They are sequential turbos. So the primary turbo activates up until about 4,500 RPM, where the secondary turbo kicks in after a pre-spool and really takes over. And that little actuator inside of the exhaust manifold is what's going to control opening and closing that as they sequence. So the actuator comes off, exhaust manifold comes off. I'm also doing some fuel things in this along with the rat's nest, the dreaded rat's nest. And as I'm tackling this, I'm thinking a lot about how I want to put it back together, what modifications I want to make, and I am going back and forth and cannot make a decision on whether or not I want to simplify the rat's nest system and convert it to a non-sequential twin turbo setup, which a lot of people do because that is going to simplify the rat's nest without spending as much money on like a single turbo. But converting it to a non-sequential system is going to reduce the amount of, it's going to increase the amount of turbo lag you get at the low end. So the low end power will suffer, but the engine will become a lot cleaner looking, simpler, easier to maintenance. So there's like really just heavy pros and cons on both sides of that. So let me know in the comments what you have, if you have a thought on that, because I am curious. A lot of people just say, go single turbo, go single turbo. Yeah, I get that, but that is a significant amount of more money to spend as opposed to just simplifying the current system. I do really like the sequential system, but I really do not like the maintenance that goes on to this because of that rat's nest. And it is a nightmare, as you'll see later on in this video, because we tackle that. And we'll just take that whole thing off of the top of the motor there. And it's just a lot. And it can be confusing. There's just a lot going on. I think I heard someone say there's about like 7 feet of vacuum lines that just go all around this nonsense of a rat's nest because of that sequential system. So simplifying it would make it a lot better. Anyway, here is the oil metering pump, which was actually a little bit different than the forum post that I've been following. If you haven't heard in the previous season, I'm following a pretty detailed step-by-step how-to deconstruct, pull your motor and deconstruct it all the way down to the bare irons. And the person who did this really just took pictures of every nut and bolt, and I wanted to film it because it's going to be a lot more educational for people if you're like me, you're a visual learner, but also it's going to be a great reference for me to go back when I start putting things back together. I have the footage of every nut and bolt. But my OMP, the oil metering pump you see here, is a little bit different than the guy in the video. Mine's a 1997. I think his might have been a 1995. He did say it was a right-hand drive model, so I know it's at least older than 93, or newer than 93, I should say. But mine was a little bit different. If you're not familiar with the oil metering pump, I guess it is kind of unique to the Rotaries. Rotaries need lubrication on the inside to lubricate the inside of the irons when it comes to the apex seals and side seals. So that there isn't like metal on metal contact. And the oil metering pump actually pumps oil directly into the combustion chamber so that it can lubricate that. And a lot of people either delete the OMP or the OMPs go faulty after a while. So that's why you hear people premix when they get gas. They put oil in the gas tank to kind of do the job of the oil metering pump. I have been still putting premix into the gas. I do Idemitsu premix, a 1-to-1 ratio. So every 1 gallon, I do 1 ounce as per my tuner. A lot of people who still have the factory OMP use a 1/2 ounce premix. My tuner recommended just doing a full ounce. We weren't exactly sure the condition of the OMP. We did end up just overall disabling it in the tune, if I remember correctly, just because we weren't sure of the condition, and just shut it off because we're going to premix anyway. So once I got that off, I was able to move on to what I wasn't sure was going to be an easy job, the water pump and the water pump housing. I already got the pulley off, but the water pump and the thermostat with the filler neck, the radiator filler neck, I thought might have been like corroded, crusty, because we've been having such coolant problems. I wasn't sure if this was clogged up, but everything looked fine, which makes me a little bit concerned for cracking this motor open, because my biggest concern is I'm going to crack this motor open and there isn't going to be anything really obvious wrong with it that would have caused my coolant issues. The assumption going into this, and it's a pretty educated guess based on our previous evidence and previous diagnostics, that we think there is a coolant seal failure, whether it be the actual seal itself degrading or the iron around the coolant housing, or the coolant seal seat, I should say, like the groove where the coolant seal sits. Cracked irons are some of the most common failures or failure points for rotaries. So my biggest fear is that we're going to crack it open and nothing's going to be wrong with it, at least obviously. And we're going to be kind of back to square one, like what caused this. But I shouldn't get ahead of myself. I kind of thought I would see some kind of corrosion or something with the water pump housing, but nothing really. From there, we get to move on to the filler neck for the oil. Easy peasy, a couple of bolts. There's a lot more to do with a vacuum. This vacuum canister is one of two. The other one I think I removed with the upper intake manifold earlier, maybe in the first episode of season 2 here. But then we kind of move directly into ignition and rat's nest. There is too much going on with this. I want to get the one part of the engine harness out of the way because we don't really need it, and there's just a couple of clips hanging that on. I didn't really label too much when it comes to, I didn't really label anything really, just because I've got everything on camera. So hoping putting it back together is going to be easier than I think, because it's a lot. There's just a lot going on. Moving on from there, it is coil pack time. Now, these were a little bit different as well from the forum I was following, just because I guess maybe my model being a Series 6, his being a Series 5 might have been just a little bit different. I'm not really sure, but some of the nuts and bolts were in just a little bit of a different place. And it doesn't look aftermarket. Everything here looks OEM. There was a couple of things modified on the motor. I had an aftermarket intercooler, aftermarket cold air intake, but it looks like actually the motor itself, the coil, the ignitions, they were all, and the fuel system looked all stock. I did these spark plugs and spark plug wires a long time ago, like a year or so ago, so I knew that those were going to be aftermarket. But other than that, it seemed pretty stock, which was a good thing. I was expecting everything to be stock. So coils out of the way, those looking nice and shiny and fine. Not really, but yeah, then we move on to the rat's nest. The rat's nest was a nightmare. There's a billion vacuum lines. They're all brittle. I don't think I only broke one, and it was on the turbo boost solenoid, which I already replaced because I broke the nipple a year ago. That like connects the vacuum line. I don't know that I have it on camera here. I recorded most things, but I don't think I recorded that actually breaking because I wasn't trying to work on it when I broke it. And that's exactly what happened a year ago. I was working on something else underneath the manifold, and I just happened to bump it in a certain way that just cracked off a piece of the turbo solenoid. So that's annoying. Another thing I'll have to replace. You can kind of see it in the upper left there, right behind my pliers. One of those I will break off very shortly. So this whole solenoid control nonsense here for the rat's nest, it was actually a really big pain to actually unplug a lot of these things. They were really caked on there. I hurt my hands a couple of times. Once I got that out of the way, I could expose the last 12mm bolt holding on this plate that was holding on the coil pack. So a lot of what you're doing here is doing something to allow you to do something else, which is allowing you to do something else. It's just because everything is so packed tightly in to this underneath the upper intake manifold area on the engine. It's just an absolute, like, look at this nonsense. It's just things tied onto each other. You have to get one thing out of the way to get something else, and then move that out of the way to get to something else. So that's a lot of why I'm considering going sequential turbo, because simplifying this would be amazing without spending the money on a big single turbo, even a medium, even a small single turbo setups are not cheap. We're talking $3,000+, whereas simplifying the sequential system to a non-sequential could in theory be free. You can just buy a bunch of block off plate like sheet metal, you know, and gasket maker, and you can kind of do it yourself. You just got to weld one of the actuators that open and close in the manifolds to create the sequential. You have to weld that, and you cut off the actuator that I removed earlier for the flange. I mean, it's really just not the end of the world. It's just a matter of, you know, making the right decision for your motor. And for me, I'm just not sure. So here I am just kind of disconnecting the rest of the main engine harness that goes onto the fuel system, unplugging the injector harnesses, and then there's just a couple of miscellaneous clips on the side of the motor and on the front of the motor where like the crank pulley is. Once that's taken care of, that whole harness is up and out of the way, which is amazing because it just felt like I was never going to get to this point. It felt like there was so much in the way, and finally you just unclip it. When it's all under the hood, it looks so much more complicated than I think it actually is. Once you get it pulled and you start really tearing things down, you can see, like I said, you're just moving one thing out of the way to get to the next thing, to get to the next thing, and so on and so forth. And the engine harness is probably like one of the things that's buried the most. It's really fished through left and right, going behind and over and behind and under. It's just a mess. From there, there's just a couple of hoses left before I called it a day. I did not actually get to take the whole fuel rail off. You can see that there under the lower intake manifold. Those types of things will be next. In the next episode, I mean, we're really getting down to the bare irons. So if you're interested in following this along, please subscribe, follow, comment. Let me know what you're thinking about this. I'm hoping to make it easy on other people doing this in the future as well.